This one is on AQC, Automatic File QC. EditShare is a company that's been known for a lot of products over the years. We've been around since 2004, and I don't know, several of you may have been at my presentations before, and in the past I talk about storage, I talk about workflow, we talk about asset management and archive and all sorts of things that we do. So today this is a bit of a new one for me as well. We recently acquired a company, and I'll talk about that in a minute, and we're now branching, or we're adding a new product range and I guess a new mentality into our processes and our workflow. And you know, like you, maybe you're learning about this, so am I, but it's actually quite an interesting area. So just before I move on, that's the sort of product range. If you want to talk about that side of it, I'll be here for the rest of the day. If you want to talk about those sort of products, I can actually demonstrate software and workflow in that room. So thanks for joining me again, and I thank Digistore for the opportunity as well. Okay, so let's move on to Automatic File QC, or File Auditing. So the new product that we have is called Quales, not Quails, Quales. It's a Spanish company that we purchased recently. It was only announced officially in August. So it's, as I said, it's new to all of us. But the company's been around for a few years, and they have quite an installed base in certain countries. I think there's only about 1 or 2 licenses in this country at the moment. So I just want to just go back and tell you where and why EditShare is heading into this area and adding it to our arsenal of tools. So let's just take a step back here. So for a long time, creating content was done on film. It was a complex process. Then the video cameras started infiltrating the news bureaus. The cameras were pushed out. Professional video started happening. We had corporate video, etc. And there was this plethora of analog cameras that turned into eventually digital formats that were recorded to tape, and the digital formats turned into creating files on hard disks or removable media. Okay, so that's obviously the last 100 years sort of compressed into 10 seconds. So now everybody pretty well that I'm aware of has transitioned to file-based workflows. And of course, once we get into that range, we start seeing an enormous amount of codecs, wrappers, delivery methods, etc. So there's basically, seems to be getting more complex and more complex. So as EditShare, we try to look ahead, we watch trends, and we are continually developing products for the future. And I'd like to say that most of the directions that we take are a combination of what our customers are telling us to do, or what they need, what we work out they really need. Sometimes they think they need something that's not quite right. And then we do some crystal ball gazing and some common business sense, and that's when we do something. And I think Quales is one of those particular products. So again, thanks for joining us, and let's get into a bit of the technical side of what we're talking about today. Just a little thing too, any of you who have been to my presentations before, I hate the old saying, death by PowerPoint. So I try to minimize the text in my presentation. So if you need more detail, I've got it, but I don't want to bore you with that today. So I'm going to zip through this, and feel free to pick my brain later on. So what is AQC, Automatic Quality Checking, or Automatic File Quality Checking? In our case, it's a software application that runs a series of test processes to allow you to efficiently check the integrity, health, and perceptual quality of media content. So AQC allows you to overcome most, if not all, the problems associated with traditional human supervision or analysing of content. Okay, so most of us are used to using a set of these, our eyes, to analyse the world, and it's been a pretty good solution for a long time and still is. But for video content, human analysis is slow. You can never be faster than real time without suffering severe quality of your testing dropping. It requires as many viewers as there are files to be done. It's error prone. It's hard to set thresholds and change those thresholds. People will find it hard to do it. And of course there's labour cost involved. As we scale our business and we have more files to analyse, we put on more staff. It's just not a cost-effective way of doing it. So that's the layman's terms, its guide to why AQC was developed. Of course, not to mention if we're using our eyes, it's only as good as the analyser is feeling that day. They might be in a hurry, they might be stressed, they might have had a very late night like myself, and to get that content out the door, the quality can get out of the tubes. So again, just to elaborate on this is one of my text slides. I apologise in advance, but obviously 1 hour of analysing content is going to take an hour of viewing. The technical parameters can only be done with external instruments, so you need to replicate your external instruments as you increase the number of files to be analysed. And it's very hard to automate or integrate into a workflow human people for efficiency. So at the end of the day, there's high structural costs. And this results in, as I said, some people add QC content because they have to for compliance. It's too hard, we won't do it, or we won't do it when we have to. They randomly check parts of content so they can actually miss big problems. And it's been a while since I've had to do anything like this, but in the old days of doing release dubs and even VHS dubs and DVDs, you just could not possibly check every dub that you did. You would do the head, tail, and maybe a little bit in the middle. That's an example where you could miss a lot of problems in that particular program. So, and the last point is that many people don't end up QCing content at all, and it gives them some problems. So anyway, in a nutshell, AQC replaces one of many sets of eyes, and it replaces it with faster and more efficient analysis using CPU cycles. You can do it faster than real time, very important these days. You can generate beautiful written reports that you can ship off to people that require them. And you don't need human intervention for a lot of this. It can be automated into a process so that as the files arrive, they're QC'd, and if they pass, they're passed on at that stage. Your asset manager may be updated with the tick of approval, and the files that don't pass are sent off to a quarantine location for somebody to go through the report and rectify. Okay? So who needs this? Everybody. At the end of the day, we're getting to that point now that everybody is going to need AQC in their workflow process. Okay. Who's using it now? Quite a few people already. There's one in the audience. So big broadcasters, big content providers, web publishers, OTT providers are already doing some level of file QC. They've got to be assured that the content that they're creating, they're playing out, that they're received and playing out is of course of high quality and it's not going to cause a problem to the end viewer. In addition, Discovery Channel, Fox, iTunes, Disney, etc. are requiring that their post-production suppliers are doing QC before it gets to them. And there's also a chance that during nowadays we deliver using transfer services like Aspera and Signia and things like that. So there's also a requirement that it's okay in the facility, but when it gets received, has the transfer done something to the file? So there's people QCing at both ends. Netflix is another one that is asking content providers to provide QC reports. They have a set of test parameters that you are supposed to conform to these days. They're also promoting some standards. There's a container format called IMF, Interoperable Master Format. It's an international standard for file-based interchange of multi-version finished content. So I think I've hammered that point. There's people needing it. And there's associations throughout the world. The DPP, Digital Production Partnership in the UK, of course, are requiring that all media content is delivered according to specific delivery formats. You'll hear the terminology AS11, AS10. The European networks, ARD, ZDF, release guidelines for their content delivery. In France, files are being requested according to AS10 standards. So the DPP, that one there, is pushing AQC vigorously, more vigorously than others at least. And we are even seeing EBU as a QC working group now towards ratifying, I guess, the process and making it standardised. So, where is it big now? DVD, Blu-ray authoring companies, video restoration companies, archiving, and especially OTT providers. OTT providers might be working, they might receive a mezzanine format, and they then create multiple files from that with different resolutions for their streaming services. They have to QC the file that comes in, then all the copies of the file, the lower resolution versions of it, and then if they're using a content delivery network, a CDN, to provide the content to the end users, they have to verify that the transfer gets to the CDN correctly as well. So there's a lot of what's going on. And it's not just broadcast in traditional areas. This is an interesting case study that happened. We have a reseller in Tokyo, and this was they were a very early adopter of Qualis, and they had the Japanese airline ANA come to them with some problems. I think we've all probably been on an international long-haul flight, I hope, and we've probably all experienced the entertainment system going down at one time or another. I have. It's certainly a lot more reliable now than it was, but it creates a lot of stress for the crew and the passengers. And ANA had a lot of issues with their entertainment system hanging, and they found that it would only be on certain files, and they were getting content and they couldn't figure it out, and it was causing them stress. And they came to our reseller in Japan and basically gave them known good files and known bad files and said, tell us which ones are bad. And Qualis passed the test, and they're using our system. That's an example of somebody outside our industry using QC. Okay, so the things, if you're buying the sort of products that you look at, is how many files can I analyze at the same time? It's an obvious one. Codecs, and some brands out there will charge you by the codec or by the packs of codecs. So I can say, Qualis doesn't do that. So that's another little tip for us. Can you do a one-pass analysis and then change the thresholds? This is an important one. So the system may spend 10 minutes analysing a long file, does a series of tests, but then you go back and think, oh, that's on the edge, I'm going to change the threshold. Do you have to reanalyze the whole file again? With Qualis, it actually analyzes the file, keeps a database, and then you can change your parameters to then see whether it passes or fails. Okay. And cloud ready. It's no use having a QC system in your facility if your files are in somebody else's server in the cloud, so to speak. So can the system run on in the cloud to process files, so you don't even have to be there. But, again, Qualis will do that. So ease of use, you can see that if you want to have a look at this later on. I've got an image I could run up on my laptop here, and I can show you through some of the controls and windows. It's very good value for money. It's literally the lowest that I'm aware of in the professional range, at least, of QC products. We include all the codecs, including 4K. I mentioned single pass analysis. It is, of course, faster than real time. The interesting thing that we can do baseband type live QC all file. And the interesting thing I was going to say is it does have APIs, and we are actually integrating it into the edit shares, asset management tools. So I'll give you an example here. This popped up at an Australian customer in a room. At NAB, they were saying that they do a lot of cutting out commercial breaks or programs where a file is received and it has black holes in it, and they need to remove those for their purposes. What happens with Qualis is it can actually analyse the file. It knows where the black holes are. It sends those marks back to our flow database. the editor can just drag the clip directly from the Outflow Asset Manager into the NLE and all the markers that appear on the timeline. They can go snap, mark in, snap, mark out, cut, get rid of them in, basically what one editor spends a lot of time finding the breaks, they can cut it down into a very efficient process. And of course, down the track, there's the potential to using those marks to extract them automatically as well in our systems. All right, so I think in the old days, it was that you could have a faster, better, or cheaper, but you can only pick 2 of those in a product. Fortunately, consumers and end users these days want all 3. So I'm happy to say that I think we've almost got it right in terms of you can have a faster, better, cheaper system with Qualys. What's it look like? The AQC process, consists of 3 steps. There's a first window is like a configuration of the tests. You can choose the test, create templates for that. After you run the tests, obviously there's a fuel gauge that tells you what sort of status it's at and all that sort of thing. There's a detailed analysis screen. You can quickly jump through to see the problem areas that are detected, if there is any. And then there's, of course, report generation. Okay. So it's pretty simple. I won't go through all these. There's a hell of a lot of tests in the format checks. Obviously the technical video levels and gamut errors and things like that are obviously going to be in there. But there's other things that come up, things like perceptual quality. I mentioned black frames. Digital media cam, black holes, digital dropouts of audio. There's all sorts of things that can come in. And audio measurement, I mentioned. And interestingly, photosensitivity epilepsy is a big thing in certain countries. And the infamous or famous event that made this come to the fore was an incident in 1997 in Japan, where up to 12,000 Japanese children reported illnesses ranging from nausea to seizures after watching an episode of Pokemon. Now this is December 16, 1997, a particular Pokemon episode. I've got the clip, can I see it?
Yes, yeah, it works.
Yes, I can play it. Anybody got epilepsy? And this particular program was broadcast, it was syndicated, it was on dozens of TV stations, and it had an audience of millions, and it had the highest ratings for that slot. So 20 minutes into the cartoon, flashing lights fill the screen where Pikachu uses his electricity powers to combat an enemy. And by 7:30, when the program was finished, 618 children had been taken to hospitals complaining of sudden symptoms including laboured breathing, fainting and headaches. Okay, so I'm pleased to say we have a PSE checker in this product as well. Now there's different, again, there's, I guess, standards. What is a standard in this area? We hear the Japanese are talking about certain things they need, and our Qualys guys are onto it and they're keeping an eye on what's going on with that. I'm just going to touch on briefly how you put this into your workflow. It really goes anywhere where the files need to be assured the quality is there. So what's that one there is the, I can't see it on my screen, the post-production. There we go. It can be basically analysing files and ingest onto your storage in quarantine area if they're bad. Keep it away from the editorial team or the production team if there is problems with the files. It's pretty simple. Archive, of course, it'd be nice to have the files looking pretty good before they're archived. So receive the files, QC them, then be sure that what you're going to put onto archive is going to be recoverable and good. And of course, when you recover the files, you might even want to check them before you send them to your broadcaster or your content delivery network. OTT we mentioned before, and you'll notice there are the multiple places where it could fit from the transfer to the creation of multiple versions of the file. And last one I have here is just file transfer. So from, I guess, the production facility or content provider to the aggregator or the delivery network. Okay, so I mentioned integration. We will be doing more and more of this integration. Currently we do some very basic stuff into the flow asset management, but that just makes it so much nicer for the production teams. So files are checked. You know they're checked because you're looking at your asset manager. In combination with some of our other automation services, files that arrive can then be put in certain places if they pass the tick of approval. In a nutshell, the summary of this particular area is that why do you need Qualas? Qualas is about making sure you have quality. Your brand is your quality. Your quality is going to measure your future success. It's quite cost efficient and also does the job at a nice speed, and it's very repeatable. And the other thing is that it offers you the ability to comply to international standards. Okay. And of course, avoiding rejection of your content. It's going to save you a lot of stress and money. Okay. Alrighty. So my next little section, I'll move straight on, is a sneak peek of something that we showed for the first time at IBC a couple of weeks ago. And it's a slightly different area that a lot of people in the content creation industry are used to worrying about. The top end of town, yes, but the small to medium and professional areas and government areas creating content but not have to worry too much about this at this stage, but we're getting there. So this is about edit share file auditing. So when we mention auditing, normally it's like a bit of the word audit sort of strikes a bit of fear in us, but it's actually, you shouldn't be too worried about this, because what it is for companies that are storing and creating content, this new edit share storage and auditing utility, we think it's got to become your best friend. Okay, because what you can do with this tool is you can detect issues before they become a problem. The monitoring itself acts as a deterrent, like keep the honest people honest, so to speak. The reporting is going to assist with compliance. We mentioned compliance before. And you can also resolve issues before they happen when you're armed with the right information. And the other sort of byproduct is this: you can actually see storage usage, and you can therefore forecast for your peak times and plan for purchasing of storage as your business grows. So what sort of problems are we talking about here? What problems are we trying to resolve here? It's things like cybercrime, data leaks, aberrant activity. What's that mean? That might include accidental or malicious activity like deletion. It's a very basic one, but in Edit Share we have had our customers come to us and say, can you find out who was in on the weekend because some files went missing? Did they delete this program? And this is the sort of tool that we can do that now. Unauthorized access, data ownership patterns, who's putting what where, who's taking up the space, who's not doing their housekeeping, etc. Is there unauthorized files being stored? We actually had a customer or university that found a complete, I think, ripped DVD library on their storage server once, wondering why they were running out of space. That was several years ago, mind you, but things have tightened up at a lot of customers. Of course, critical actions that have high risk to business, there's a lot of those. And then, of course, just logging who was on when they actually come in and do that shift. It's like Big Brother watching you, but I think we've got to the stage where we're seeing these sort of problems popping up, and they have to be looked at. So in a nutshell, what we do is we say who did what when, and keep a really nice log of it in this sort of panel. Okay, so again, I can actually run this later on. If you have time to sit down with me, I can show you through some of it. It's pretty new to me, but I can show you some events. I can do something on the server, and you can find the events come up very quickly. Alrighty. Interestingly, I'm told it will just be part of our storage software, so it's not a separate license. So it'll just become a nice little add-on utility to give value in our solutions. Okay, so What was I going to say there? Yes.
Can it
So-
audit on your rules, your own rules and policies sort of thing? Like if you wanted to check for things like who might be putting in illegal characters into file names and stuff like that, is there any
Not
sort of
sure.
issue? Yeah, okay.
Not sure about that. At the moment, it seems to be a log of
Actions.
exactly the actions of what's going on to do with normal accessing the server.
Okay.
I guess in some ways you think about the HUC would detect file issues as well. Well, can you set a set of rules? Who knows? I'm not sure about that. Think about it. Anyway, so, I think our prediction of file auditing is that it will become part of your everyday workflow need in the future, no matter how small or large your company might be. So your customers might start insisting that if they store data with you, that you have, or you can actually track what's going on with the data. They probably already are, but that's something that may happen in the near future. And we're pretty proud to be able to, I'm proud to say that we've actually got something going on in that area. Take this further, I just want to paint a bigger picture too, just so as part of our briefing today, is to, I guess, whet your appetite for information. To take this further, cybercrime, I want to talk about that in detail here, just for a few slides. The number of data breaches that are happening around the world isn't going away. It's not getting smaller, it's actually going up pretty strong, and no industry is that safe anymore. And not even the top end of town. The biggest players in that industry have been held hostage. And some examples, you've probably heard about the Sony breaches. I didn't realise just how bad it was till I received some of this research information. In 2014, an estimated 100 terabytes of data assets were stolen. And then most of it was released to the public. And that included 3 previously unreleased movies, the script for the movie Spectre, I think, before it was finished, email content, Sony employee private information. When the hackers were raising their footprints, they bricked several servers and damaged infrastructure. And the remaining information on the servers was unrecoverable, apparently. There was 4 lawsuits filed on Sony by Sony Picture employees, and they had to set aside $15 million for damages because of the hack. So, and there was one other one, the Sony co-chairperson, Amy Pascal, had to step down because of some emails that were leaked. They were pretty derogatory to actors, and also President Obama. So, yeah, that's just one event. And not to labour the point, but Netflix, you've probably heard about the Dark Overlord who hacked a production facility that was doing audio on Netflix shows. So, and other shows as well. Dozens of Netflix, NBC, CBS, Disney shows were affected. And Larson ended up paying 50,000 US in bitcoins. There you go. There is a use for them. And then shortly after, the hackers demanded ransom from the actual show owners, and they ended up releasing Orange is the New Black, a series. I think it was 1 episode was released, and then they didn't get the ransom, so they released 9 more. And it ended up being 36 programs, combination of TV series, films, and television. It's big. So, Game of Thrones. Sorry, I'm probably going to labour, but you've heard about the Game of Thrones one. The ransom note was $6 million US was requested, and they hacked their Twitter feeds as well. This hacker called Our all right. So there's been responses by the industry, of course. There's guidelines and there's all sorts of things that are issued. So, in IT terms, there's this. Some of you might have already heard this. It's pretty new to me, but SIEM, Security Information Event Management. It's another area that we're looking at, not to create products to do this, but more so to integrate with. what it means is that detecting suspicious activity often requires simultaneous monitoring of multiple systems, not just your storage or your network. It might be physical access systems as well, like swipe cards and this sort of stuff. So the idea, that's an example. The idea of SIEM is to combine multiple events together into reports and consoles so that people can make some meaning from it, and you can, by aggregating multiple events and correlating it into meaningful bundles, this ultimately allows quicker and accurate alerts, in a nutshell. So we, in a nutshell, as I said, aggregating, correlation, reporting, and we're working with one or two of these people that actually make these softwares at the moment, and the idea is that our tool can then, if you have an enterprise one, send it to that particular SIEM system. Okay? That's me for today. As I said, we do a lot. Too much to speak about in one presentation. If you want to have a talk to me, I'm outside, and there is my email address. Thank you. Any questions? Feel free.
Qualis, does it take the IMF? If we were to say deliver some IMS, can use Qualis equipped to QC?
To the standards.
Yeah.
From what I understand, yes. There's some. I can get some more information for you from Qualis. It's pretty new to me.
Yeah.
But the Qualis guy, our product manager, seems right across it, and I can put that to you if you like.
Yeah, because we're using a rival product, and it comes with a lot of pre-built templates for vendors specifically,
yeah.
which is really handy. Is that something that in the pipeline for this tool?
Yeah,
as well?
absolutely. They're already doing. I think they've already created some templates for Netflix.
Yeah, Netflix being the main one. Yeah.